for Wildwood at Home, or as we're going to call the podcast, I think, Chewing the Gristle. That sounds rather vivid. You know, today is kind of a surreal day. We have the mighty Joe Satriani visiting us from his beautiful lair in San Francisco. Joe, how the heck are you?
I am good. So happy to talk to you today.
Well, I'll tell you what.
As we were talking about before, look at that, right? Matching outfits. Come on.
Great minds think alike. Or follically challenged heads think alike. Maybe yes. One of the two.
Happy world, and you got to do something about it.
Well, you know, I found that as I got older, the black T-shirts seemed to mitigate the presence of my Milwaukee goiter a little bit. And I've messed around with different cranial raiments, and this is my current iteration. So that's been going well.
Yes, we have a big pile of things to protect the head, you know, from wind and sun and people throwing things, whatever. You know.
This is true. Well, you know what's wild is the first time we actually met was backstage at that Experience Hendrix event here in actually beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But I remember a couple of years back, a couple of the guys from Wildwood, I think it was Troy that was telling us, you know, Joe Satriani called here and he was talking about your videos. Like, wait, what? What are you talking about? So I thought they were yanking my chain. And then when I was at the thing and you came up to me like, hey, and you introduced me to your lovely wife and the whole 9 yards, like, this is bizarro. So it was so wild to make your acquaintance. And what was funny too is that you know, right away, the sense of humor thing is always something that really seems to bond people. You know what I mean? You can tell right away if somebody's just like, you know what, at the end of the doggone day, if you can't laugh about the whole thing, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I've spent so many hours watching your videos, and then finally, I usually turn them off because my face hurts from laughing too much. And, you know, there's part of me, it feels really sad because I go, I can't play that. I wish I could play that.
Come on.
I got to figure out how to play that. Then I go, that's too much work. I'm just going to listen to the jokes now. And, you know, eventually, you know, me and the friends are just sending the links to each other going, you got to just check this out. You know, it's just too funny. So you are a funny man. You bring laughter to a very serious subject, which is trying to play guitar, which is, you know, it's convoluted, it's difficult. And we try every day. We wake up and we try to play. But yeah, that sense of humor, got to be able to laugh at yourself, you know.
Well, you know, especially in this industry, you know, it's sometimes if I didn't have a sense of humor, I think I probably would have gone, shall we say, even more insane many years ago. But it's served me well over the years, just kind of keeping things in perspective, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm looking at your lair, too.
Yes.
This is, you've got an orange guitar, and you know I'm a fan of orange. I don't have my orange guitar sitting there. I've got some other strange colors I'm working with, but there's something about playing an orange guitar. I don't know. I love it.
I love it too. You know, it was just one of those things when I was a kid, someone asked me, what's your favorite color? I just, orange. That was it. And then for years, I never had an orange guitar. And I always kind of seemed to gravitate towards like Sonic Blue or Daphne Blue, your blues. And then when we were thinking about doing different colors for my Reverend guitar, I was like, boy, an orange would really be cool. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's glorious. And I was like, well, we need a name for the color of orange. And I said, Clockwork Orange. That seems to work. And then off to the races we went. And I love playing the orange guitar. And then, of course, the orange room, we moved into this house about 4 years ago. And it had the weirdest kind of wallpaper and colors in this house. And so we repainted everything. And this is kind of a little back sunroom in the back of the house. And we thought orange is good. And so it started off where actually on the side of the house or side of the room where I'm in, this was my wife's lair, and I was on the other side. And then when the COVID collapse took place, my wife took over the attic, and then my son and I took over this lair as our shall we say, music hovel.
Yes.
And so now I got the orange guitar in the Orange Room. And my son always gets a kick out of it because no matter where he goes, he'll be playing a gig someplace with somebody who's like, dude, tell me about the Orange Room. It's like, well, it's actually kind of a small room at the back of our house.
Yeah, you'll have to make up some stories about what happens in the Orange Room.
Indeed. Years ago, this is kind of a funny story. I think it's funny. I was going through a guitar magazine of some sort, and you did this article. And you know, a lot. I've never really been a very good student or someone that reads a magazine from, back to front and all points in between and learns all the lessons and so on and so forth. I've, probably some variation of attention deficit or whatnot. And, so I'm going through and I see, Joe Satriani's got this art. And it was on stacked fourth voicings in I think it was a Dorian scale. And I got to tell you, Joe, I have used that. I wrote a song immediately using that. It was a tune of mine called Foolish Mortal. I've played ever since then. And I have utilized that as kind of chord soloing fodder and over all the different modes. And I teach it all the time too. I was like, I got this from Joe Satriani. So I was curious. I mean, obviously, when you were early on and you took lessons from some kind of, really kind of established old jazz cats, right? So was it one of the things where you went through standards, or were you trying to apply of course, we could talk forever about our mutual love of one Jimi Hendrix, but were at your mindset when you were taking lessons back then, were you like, I really want to be a jazz guitar player, or did you just really want to go, how can I know what I'm doing more so I can develop my own voice in more of kind of a rock, but, infused with these other influences? But what was your kind of your mindset back then, if you will?
Yeah, the stacked fourth things is an interesting story because it ties together with learning. Starting out as a self-taught guy, just playing along with records,
right? Playing
with friends, stealing ideas. People would write stuff down on loose leaf paper at school and give it to me. I'd take it home like it was, the part of my grimoire that I was slowly piecing together about how to play. And then I started taking music theory lessons at Carr Place High School. We had just this brilliant young Juilliard graduate who got stuck in this teeny little town teaching a bunch of long-haired Black Sabbath nutcases like me. And but we were hungry for knowledge, and so he was teaching us modes. And back then, you had to be tested by the state of New York. It was all very official. So we got a good education there. And then as I was getting out of high school and heading towards college, I did wind up taking a few lessons from Lenny Tristano for a few months. But because he was blunt, didn't show you anything. It was more, more like getting taught by Yoda or something like that. He didn't hand out leaflets and things like that. So in that period there, I was grabbing stuff from anywhere. I knew I was just a rock kid. I wasn't going to become a jazzer, but I loved bebop. I loved jazz. I loved blues. So I would be at home practicing. I would try to absorb all of it. And I had this book by Joe Pass called Joe Pass Chords, an amazing book. It was the first chord book I ever saw that didn't have chord names. And his idea, or his publisher's or his editor's idea, was just present chords in a key and say, for C major, this is a bit distorted now, I think. Well, you can use all of these chords and they may work.
Right.
Or they may not work. And you're to decide, how that's going to work. And I thought, well, this is really brilliant because I've been playing every chord in every chord book I had every day, like as a thing, just to learn. First position chords, fifth string roots, sixth string root bar chords. But then I started thinking like, wow, these chords, there's no really, it's not like there's a root and then everything else is on top like typical rock chords. So I started thinking, well, what I'm learning from this guy, Bill Westcott, in high school is that every note of a scale is harmonized with all the other notes in that scale.
Right.
If you want to stay in that scale's key.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. So you might as well learn every chord off of every note in every mode. Of course, that's, you're 16, you're like, I ain't doing that.
Right, exactly.
So But somehow I got around to doing that. And when I put together, the idea that Joe Pass was talking about, these little 4-note chord fragments, and you see C major for 2 bars, play 8 of these fragments. Maybe they'll work. Use your ear. And I'm thinking about what Bill had said about harmonizing every note and every scale. And then I run into Lenny Tristano, who really taught me what practicing was all about. How you had to look at yourself and say, do I know that or do I not know that? Can I do that or can I not do that? So, and that allowed you to say, okay, this is where I suck. This is where I need to work, and I should know it. And his idea was, when you know it, then you can improvise. If you don't know it, you're just flailing away, repeating stuff that you've heard before. And he hated that. To him, that was not improvisation. You could only improvise once you knew everything. You didn't think about it. You were completely non-judgmental as you improvise,
Right.
So I put all these things together and I thought, okay, I am going to harmonize everywhere. Because he had me doing, like, Lenny would say, like, okay, I need melodic minor harmonized in seconds, thirds, and fourths in every key off of every string combination.
Right.
That was one part of 1 week's lesson. It was just a monumental amount of work for a teenage kid,